do to protect people's jobs? Are they going to be treated like the magazine staffers were?
We'll have more information as we move forward. Thank you very much.
And how will you decide it?
You seem to be disrespecting this.
Joining us live, it reminded me of like a Biden press conference. Like, you know, Corinne Jean-Pierre's always like, no, we're not answering any of your questions. Joining us live now to comment, tax attorney and president of Walser Wealth Management, Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, I know why the Washington Post is laying off their employees. No one talks about this, but the real reason is because no one reads their leftist garbage. But Wall Street, big firms announcing mass layoffs, many more coming, they say. What do they see coming that we should maybe be prepared for?
Well, Dr. Gina, that's a huge topic, right? Because we do see massive economic changes on the horizon. And that's because we are in the middle of a global realignment, macroeconomically speaking. You know, we see Saudi Arabia, which is our biggest risk threat right now. The petrodollar is ending, has ended officially because Russia is no longer selling crude and natural gas in US dollars since they got kicked out of the SWIFT system. But what is happening now is China has just even this week announced that they will and are moving Saudi Arabia to be able to sell crude in Chinese yuan outside of the US dollar since 1974. It has not happened since 1974. So they are bracing. I think they should be bracing for that. They're probably just looking more, though, you know, Dr. Gina, at the yield curve inversions. If we look at the 3-month and the 10-year, it's the largest inversion we've had since 1986. Very indicative. The last 8 inversions we've had since the 80s have all resulted in recessions between 3 and 13 months post-inversion. These inversions have been happening since May. So we are really already into this. And so what you saw first was the tech companies acknowledging that, oh, yeah, the economy really is turning downwards. And now it's going to the financial services firm. They've been telling everybody to stay the course. Everything's going to work out fine for as long as they can. And now the reality is hitting them and they will cut staff as well.
Bloomberg says the economy is cooling and the labor market is holding strong, according at least to the latest jobs numbers. They say initial applications for unemployment benefits fell last week to its lowest in 2 months. But don't we need a lot more people to lose their jobs to stop inflation? Isn't that why the Fed is raising rates in the first place?
Yeah, the Fed really knows. They're really targeting right now a 5% rate. Where with this recent increase this week, we're at about 4.25 to 4.5, 4.75. But we really think that we're going to have to be above 5. I've seen some estimates and some analysis as high as 7, which would be awful for the economy. But Dr. Gina, this is a reality, and I really am skeptical. I've never felt this way. It's a little bit odd and unusual. But in the last 12 months, the economic data that's coming out of the administration is clearly worrisome. And I'll give you 2 examples. The private payroll numbers for November showed 127,000 jobs added through ADP. But when we actually got the actual November jobs report, we saw 263,000. So the differential is government jobs, government hiring. It's the same exact thing what happened with Q3 GDP. We had positive GDP, but if you look at the actual sectors, it was negative everywhere except for in government spending. So the government is doing a lot, I think, to help the numbers look better. But the reality is in private sector, we are cutting it. It's a requirement. The economy is not doing well.
Bloomberg also reported that Americans are increasingly tapping into their savings and also running up their credit card balances. We all know that is never a good thing. If it's going to happen, it's probably we're going to see some real results of this after this Christmas holiday. How long can Americans keep this up before sort of the house of cards starts coming down?
Well, I think we're at the beginning stages of seeing that, Dr. Gina. That's what's really happening here. I mean, we have Americans that first went through their savings and now they're living on their credit cards, with the interest rates on credit cards being so much higher in the last year and a half than they have been in the last 20 years. I mean, well, not 20, but let's say the last decade. We've had literally since 2002 and 2008, we've really had a really low cost of capital in the credit markets, and people have enjoyed being able to, borrow at less than 2 2%, depending on, their relationship. Obviously, a normal credit card's not going to be at that level. But Dr. Gina, credit card rates are going up so much. So much more of your monthly payment is just going to interest. You're not even touching your principal. These are causing Americans to max out their credit cards much, much faster. And of course, once they've tapped out their savings and they've completely maxed out their credit cards, at that point, we start getting into payment defaults. And that's where you really start to see the needle on the recession move a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Federal Reserve met this week and increased rates again, this time with a 0.5 percentage point hike compared to the 3/4 hike they've instituted in their last several meetings. And some say a recession is inevitable, even while the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen continues to claim it's not likely, which is the exact same thing she said about inflation, by the way, 2 years ago. Rebecca, this brings us back around to the very first story. Wall Street firms see something coming. So recession or no recession?
This is not a typical recession. This is a economic tsunami. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but people should prepare. There is global machinations afoot. We saw the largest gold transfers from the West vaults to the East. We have the BRICS nations moving to gold-backed currencies again and having coming up with an alternative global reserve to the U.S. dollar. America is got a lot in store for in 2023, and people need to be prepared. They should really prepare. Dr. Gina, you and I are both in Florida. We're very used to preparing for hurricanes. I'm just telling clients, and I'm telling all Americans in general, be prepared, have some cash at home, have some food and water and energy resources, and just in case things get dicey and you don't have a lot of access to your bank cards, because I do see a problem there as well.
All right. Well, the other financial debacle making headlines this week, as we're all watching this, the arrest of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF as he's being referred to now, and the charges against which include wire fraud and the conspiracy to defraud the United States. Investigators say he used FTX to fund his own personal pet projects, which we now know include funneling money to the Democrat Party. And just hours before he was about to testify to Congress, he was arrested. Just such a coincidence there, Rebecca, right? I don't think anybody wanted his little black book put out there in this testimony, did they?
No, and it would be interesting if we can get him back in protective U.S. custody and he stays that way. Let's hope that we can get a witness to survive U.S. prison.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to put it. I never even thought of it. Rebecca Walser, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Gina. Thank you.